The high number of registrations for today's webinar is a testament to the value of the content that we're sharing, the timeliness of the topic, and to the quality of our presenters, who I'll introduce to you in just a moment. But first, I'd like to share some regional information on our topic. Technical Training Aids is and always has been committed to closely track industry trends and share these insights with our customers and partners as they plan for the future of their training programs. Of all the trends we have our eyes on, supply chain automation demand is at the top of the list. The outlook for supply chain automation demand in the Southeast is at an all-time high. There are new distribution centers popping up all over our areas. Home Depot recently announced 3 centers in Georgia opening with 1,000 new jobs in the Atlanta area. In Western North Carolina, Henderson County, Amazon's opening a new distribution center offering 200 jobs and quick delivery to rural areas. Walmart's investing $220 million in Dorchester County, South Carolina, adding 1,000 jobs and 3 million square feet in the new state-of-the-art distribution center. What does this all mean? Well, it adds up to jobs in our region that can lead to great careers in supply chain automation. This is on the next slide. There's a recent job search I did for supply chain careers in our regional states, and these numbers are for jobs that are open today, not including all these exciting newly announced centers that are opening. Before the COVID crisis began, the research firm eMarketer predicted that the global e-commerce market would reach $5 trillion by 2021. That's 5 trillion with a T. This represents a 40% annual growth rate over 2 years. And that was before COVID-19, a crisis that has accelerated this rate of growth. This rapid growth has put significant stress on the entire e-commerce supply chain, including distribution and warehousing. And as these operations seek to alleviate constraints in their operations, they're looking more and more towards automation as a solution. This is all happening even as many of our industrial sectors are already suffering from a shortage of talent, of technical talent, with the skills and knowledge necessary to service and troubleshoot automated processes and equipment. With the growth in automation throughout the supply chain, this problem will only become more acute. That's why today's topic on innovative tools for education and upskilling supply chain automation technicians is so timely and important, and I'm sure you're as eager as I am to get started. Joining us today are 3 of our country's most sought after and respected authorities on supply chain automation, who will share with us the challenges and opportunities in the supply chain automation market, best practices in upskilling and certifying the supply chain automation workforce. First, it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Steve Harrington. Steve is the industry liaison for the National Center for Supply Chain Automation. In this role, he's responsible for the development and oversight of a national industry leadership team consisting of supply chain executives and logistics industry stakeholders. He has 28 years of experience in supply chain operations. Steve, welcome to our webinar and thanks for coming today.
Thank you, Travis. It's great to be here.
Following Steve, we'll hear from Mr. Neil Reddy. Mr. Reddy is the co-founder of the Manufacturing Skills Standards Council, MSSC, an industry-led nonprofit training, assessment, and certification organization focused on the core technical competencies needed by the nation's frontline production and material handling workers. Today, Mr. Reddy oversees all aspects of MSSC from operations to marketing. Neil, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Travis. I'm delighted to be here.
Excellent. Finally, following Mr. Reddy, we'll be joined by Mr. Paul Perkins. Mr. Perkins is co-founder, president, and CEO of Amatrol, a Jeffersonville, Indiana developer and manufacturer of technical learning systems and online learning materials for teaching skills that prepare individuals for employment in all sectors of industry. Amatrol products are used by thousands of colleges, industry training centers, and high schools throughout all 50 states and 53 countries around the world. Thanks, Paul, for joining us.
Thank you, Travis. It's a pleasure to be here.
Technical Training Aids is proud to be the exclusive distributor of MSSC and Amatrol, providing certifications, curriculum, e-learning, and training equipment in our 6 southeastern states. Paul, it's great to have you with us, and let's go ahead and get started by handing the meeting over to Mr. Steve Harrington of the National Center for Supply Chain Automation. Steve, take it away.
Thank you, Travis. In 2011, Two academics were seeking National Science Foundation funding for a growing occupation that was emerging in the modern 21st century warehouse. They termed at the time a supply chain technician. The use of automated material handling equipment and systems required to more efficiently meet customer demands was growing. Automated systems, typically found in manufacturing operations, and the technologies behind them had become more affordable and reliable. This emerging technician occupation, with a distinct career pathway, was occurring at the intersection of traditional industrial mechanics with motor controls and information technology. The demand for these well-paid, multi-skilled technicians was growing exponentially, and no one outside the industry knew it. Hands-on educational training programs contextualized to meet this growing demand were non-existent. Related industry-validated occupational certifications were nowhere to be found. The two academics I referenced earlier convinced a NSF program officer to come to California to see some of these automated facilities in operation, with the goal of providing some hands-on background to their funding request. He agreed to make the trip and was taken on a tour of the 1.4 million square foot Skechers building that included robotic systems and a highly automated Cardinal Healthcare facility. Like most people, the NSF program officer had no idea automated systems like these were in use in today's technically advanced logistics environment. He was extremely surprised and amazed. He could see why these highly automated systems required skilled technicians to keep them operational. The National Center's funding request was approved. This slide illustrates examples of the automated systems that exist in today's modern warehouse. It should help provide a little bit of context for today's webinar. Oftentimes, you go by these large buildings on the side of the road, huge white buildings. You have no idea what's inside of those buildings. Oftentimes, there's significant investments in automated systems, anywhere from $1 to $5 million, $10 million or more, or in the case of the really modern, fully robotic facilities today, the investment is in excess of $200 million, requiring about 60 to 100 technicians to keep it operational. So I mentioned that the National Center received funding. The National Center for Supply Chain Automation was funded under the NSF Advanced Technological Education Program, which is focused on technician education in emerging occupations in STEM discipline fields with defined career pathways that pay living wages for entry-level positions. The focus of our work at the center is on the occupation of supply chain technician, as I previously mentioned, which is also referenced as a supply chain automation technician, a multi-craft technician, or simply a technician in today's modern logistics world. The center works with industry to develop resources in support of this occupation, which are available for use by educators. Everything the center develops is with the input, guidance, and vetting by members of our industry leadership team. Some of those resources include occupational profiles, a model program, course outlines, educational videos, white papers, and our introduction to the automated warehouse e-textbook, which I'll be talking about in a few minutes. As a result of our grant funding, all of our resources are available at no cost to users and are available for download on our website. SCA does not engage in student education. This is handled by our educational collaborators at community colleges and technical schools across the country. The center has a set of a mission and objectives, and at the core of that is the goal to increase the supply of highly qualified supply chain automation technicians. For the purpose of today's webinar, we're focused on what is objective 4 in the bottom right-hand corner: establish or promote stackable national industry certifications in supply chain automation. Upon our initial funding, we had a group of academic partners who helped us in our formation and the initial direction with regard to engaging industry. This is a list of those schools. Since then, we've added on Central Piedmont Community College in Charlotte, North Carolina. I mentioned that the center works with industry to seek input, guidance, and vetting of the development of our resources. This is a list by logo of industry leadership team companies that have been involved in the process. The list has evolved over time. We currently have 41 industry leadership team members from 29 different companies. At the core of the National Center's mission is also the occupational definition, which was given to us by industry. And I'll read it here: a person who installs, maintains, supports, operates, or upgrades the automated material handling equipment and systems which support the supply chain. So everything that we do is double checked against that particular definition given to us by industry. Here you'll also see a list of the variety of skills. You heard me mention earlier a multi-craft technician. Literally, this is all of the different skill sets that this individual needs to know. Much different than the traditional manufacturing environment in which it was very trade focused. All of this is coming together now as technology evolves. One of the things that the National Science Foundation requires in terms of the funding for an emerging occupation is a career pathway for the individual that is involved in seeking the career, and that there are both living wages and that there's growth associated with it. This shows an organic career pathway from one of our industry leadership team members, beginning at a tech level 1 or tech trainee, working its way up through the career ladder. Starting wages in this occupation range in the $18 to $22 an hour range, around $40,000 a year. The mid-range jobs pay $75,000 to $80,000 a year. And at the high end, they are well in excess of $100,000 a year. I mentioned that the center develops resources. So one of our core resources, or actually one of the largest core resource we have, is our Introduction to Automated Warehousing e-textbook, which was developed by 6 of our industry leadership team members in coordination with the center. They were all contributing authors. This is designed as a survey course for high school and community colleges. It's fully downloadable on iBooks and on our website by chapter in a PDF format. It has interactive widgets and an instructor's manual, which helps the instructor to deliver the course. It can be used all or in part. So different sections can be used if academics choose to do that, and or the book can be used in its entirety. You will receive a link to this e-textbook on a follow-up immediately after the conclusion of the webinar. So what is occurring in industry today is quite astounding. The e-commerce growth that has occurred prior to COVID, as Travis previously touched upon, with that $5 trillion number, is amazing. So this is some quantifiable data from 2019. 103 billion packages were shipped across the world in 2019, 3,250 of those per second. And the industry is forecasted to double in growth between now and the year 2026. The way industry looks at this is that there's 103 billion new handling opportunities that they have to address. One issue and one large difference between e-commerce and traditional logistics is that e-commerce is handled one each at a time versus one carton at a time or one pallet at a time. And that requires a significantly more complex set of operations inside a logistics warehouse. So it makes things much more difficult on operators. And the other part of that is the demand in terms of the speed and responsiveness of industry today to meet consumer demands. Whether they're shipping something in 2 days, in 1 day, or in a lot of cases now 2 hours, the automated equipment and systems and technologies behind that have to be state of the art in order to meet customer needs. This chart shows the growth of e-commerce domestically. I showed previously a chart for the entire globe. In terms of what's occurring in the US, if you look closely, you can see obviously the upward trend in this particular slide, but the 2 bars on the right are of particular interest. It's 2019 to 2020. In this case, it's a growth in the US of $85 billion a year in e-commerce volume, again, one each at a time, presenting quite a challenge for logistics operators. The way things ended up occurring as a result of COVID is the forecast for 2020 was at 13% growth of total US retail sales. It's now at 16%, which is quite significant, representing about an additional $125 billion a year in e-commerce shipments. And what this has done is reshaping the entire market. What we have going on right now is a wholesale transition of traditional jobs in bricks and mortar retail in today's 21st century logistics environment. Some of those being the technician occupation, which are the focus of our work at the center. UBS, International Financial Advisory Firm, forecasts that 25% of all US retail spending will be online by 2025. That's consistent with the prior doubling number. And this will expect to force 100,000 physical stores to close. That's the closing of bricks and mortar. That's the opening and driving the growth of today's logistics environment. And some of those physical stores will actually end up becoming e-commerce distribution centers. Quite interesting. Macy's is doing that both in Denver and Delaware. Shopify is a online pure play retailer who's a platform. Think of Amazon 3PL, how they work with 3PLs. They're third-party companies is what I mean. And COVID-19 has pushed e-commerce growth forward by 10 years from a technology perspective and from an adoption perspective. Back in March, over 40% of all of the people who were using e-commerce were using it for the very first time. What this surge has done is also affected the package shipping industry considerably. Think of UPS, think of FedEx Ground, think of USPS, and now Amazon entering. This chart shows, if you look at the bottom right corner in 2017, that's the growth in the industry over and above what occurred in 2016. The darker bar is demand per day, the lighter bar is capacity per day, and this is packages shipped in the US daily. So you see the significant growth in that, both in terms of what industry did to grow and in terms of the growth of e-commerce packages. But what's happened in 2020 now, if you look at the bar on the far right, is the darker bar is showing that the demand for e-commerce is exceeding the actual capacity in the US to ship packages on a daily basis. A lot of your packages that you're ordering are going to be late. I would suggest that you order early. But what that's doing as it relates to our work at the National Center is that's requiring the packaging companies to add additional staffing, to add additional days of work, and to add additional facilities, automated facilities that are required to process this volume. And so that is a trend that is also occurring. In terms of quantifying the impact of the rotation toward e-commerce, C.B. Richard Ellis came up with a metric back in 2017, which says that for every $1 billion in additional e-commerce sales, there's an addition of 1.25 million square feet of logistics space. So if you look at some of the metrics that I previously shared, which show that there's going to be about an additional $200 billion of e-commerce growth in this country in the coming year, that could lead to as much as an addition of 250 million square foot of warehouse space, much of that being automated. And how does all of that impact the work of the National Center? That is a tectonic shift in the demand in the occupation of today's supply chain automation technician to keep these centers operational. The National Center's role is in research. And of course, I touched earlier on resource development. During the initial center formation in the first 2 years, we did research that identified that there were no certifications that existed that were industry validated and ISO accredited to address this occupation that schools could teach people to earn, and that it would assist graduates in gaining employment. At that point in time, we were working a little bit with the Material Handling Industry Association and the Manufacturing Skills Standards Council, and an MOU or an agreement was entered into to develop a certification, or for the National Center to provide research into the development of a certification. So as our research role, I convened industry leadership team focus groups in partnership with some of our other colleagues at the center, and we engaged that group and gathered a task list, subtask list, and developed a DACM document that was submitted to MSSC as part of the process. The people that were involved in that were from the industry leadership team that I previously shared. They consisted of retailers, large package shipping companies, and automated equipment suppliers. The National Center, as I mentioned before, turned the research over to MSSC to do their part in the creation of a certification. Along the continuum in the development, industry leadership team members from the center were involved in the validation of assessments, the design of the SkillBoss Logistics device that Paul will be speaking about soon, and validating some e-learning that's been designed in support of the overall program. Going forward, our role is to raise the awareness about the importance of certifications and in general about this certification and other certifications as well. What's next? There are a number of certification pilot programs that are underway across the country. Some of those are NSF focused. The top 4 schools on this list have NSF focused programs. There's other collaborator schools who are working on them as well. And the Target Corporation is also involved in pilot projects in 4 different states. One of those centers around apprenticeship, which is very exciting. And all of that is just getting off the ground. With that said, the National Center has resources on its website, which may be helpful to those of you that are interested in adopting supply chain automation focused programs. There are research documents from industry that are accessible. And if you contact and reach out to me, I'm happy to point you in the direction which may be useful. There's our website. And with that said, Neil, if you could go ahead and share your screen for the next part of this presentation.
Thank you, Steve. Let me just get back here to my first slide. Well, thank you, Stephen. I'd like to thank the National Center for Supply Chain Automation again. It's been a fantastic partnership going back, gosh, it's probably been almost 7 years now. And just a testament to just the huge amount of work that's gone into this enormous project. And yeah, so to introduce the Certified Technician Supply Chain Automation Certification Program, I thought I'd just kick off by giving you a few just bullet points about the Manufacturing Skills Standards Council and who we are. I think a lot of you already know us and who we are, but we are a national leader in certifying frontline technicians in advanced manufacturing and logistics. We're pretty well institutionalized at this point. We have over 1,760 authorized assessment centers in all 50 states. We have a network of over 2,700 MSSC trained instructors. We have, we're endorsed, of course, by the National Association of Manufacturing for both our manufacturing and logistics certifications. We're also the only national certifying body accredited under ISO standard 17024, which is a very high level ISO standard for certifying personnel companies. And very few, if you look at the 5,000 or so certificate or certification programs in America, probably less than 200 are actually have attained this level of third-party accreditation. We have 7 certifications total. We have 2 for production technicians, certified production technician and CPT plus, if you will. We have a certified logistics technician for material handling workers, frontline material handling workers, certified forklift technician, which is one of the first of its kind for forklift repair and service and maintenance. Again, this is, again, as I was mentioning, this has been about almost a 7-year effort. We've also engaged the material handling industries, or MHI, and MHITA, Material Handling Equipment Distributors Association. Of course, our longstanding partner, Amatrol, who we've been working with for over 14, well, actually going back even more than that, almost maybe 17 to 18 years if you look at the development of our standards. So again, this automation technician is a person who installs, operates, supports, upgrades, or maintains the automated material handling equipment and systems that support the supply chain. Again, like all of our other certifications, this is a comprehensive system. And if you look at the amount of work and the time that has to go into when I say a comprehensive system. So we start with our standards, subject matter experts that do this for a living on a regular basis. We work with multiple subject matter experts from multiple different types of facilities that would offer these automated systems. We, of course, include assessments. We include our courseware, instructor training to deliver these courses and prepare people to sit for our assessments, credentials, and of course, under our ISO accreditation, a national registry of all our certificates. This slide here kind of gives a little synopsis on each of the 3 certifications. So the first is equipment maintenance, or EM. This credential is aligned with the skills most supply chain employers require for an entry-level maintenance technician. The bullet list shown under the title gives examples of the key activities or skills in which individuals are assessed and trained for the certification. This includes skills such as system operation, safety, preventive maintenance, lubrication, and various types of machine adjustments. So when this person is done with the EM, they can go on to equipment repair, or ER. Similar to EM, the ER credential is aligned with the skills required for the next level technician occupation in most supply chain facilities, sometimes called a Tech 2, which is to troubleshoot, install, and modify the electromechanical equipment. That includes working with systems such as hydraulics, pneumatics, AC and DC electrical motors, and mechanical power transmission. The third credential is network repair, or NR. This credential is really the capstone where our certificates demonstrate competency of the entire automation system, adding, of course, controllers and networks. Like the other 2 credentials, the NR credential is aligned with industry requirements for the Tech 3 occupation. In this credential, individuals must demonstrate their ability to install, configure, program, modify, and troubleshoot programmable logic controllers, variable frequency drives, Ethernet networks, barcode scanners, and the entire system. Now, for an individual to earn one of these certifications, with each of the 3 actually, there is both an e-learning course and a hands-on training element that's provided through Amatrol's SkillBoss Logistics machine, which is just a brilliant invention that Paul Perkins will be talking about here shortly. We estimate anywhere from 150 to 200 hours of training for each of these, with close to probably 80 to 100 for the e-learning portion and so forth, and on with the hands-on. So now we have a multiple choice assessment for each e-learning course. And then we have a performance-based assessment that's typically delivered by an instructor that'll serve as a human examiner or human proctor for the hands-on performance-based. Now, for an individual to earn a certification, they must pass both of these assessments. So one of the advantages of this program, and it's a real asset in terms of the hands-on training, is the SkillBoss Logistics device. You know, we are, when I say we're in almost 1,800 assessment and training centers, it's very difficult. It would be very difficult to have unique or individualized or, or in training labs with multiple hard trainers to try and capture all the 100+ skills that we have to capture in these certifications. So in order to maintain consistency and quality, especially under our ISO 17024, where each one of our certificates is treated in an equitable and fair manner, it's very important that we use the same training and assessment device, which is what the SkillBoss Logistics does. It's a very unique opportunity. Again, this is a national certification. This should attract students into very promising, very lucrative careers with a lot of advancement. This makes technician training really at the advanced levels of automation technician to basically provide that and make it much more accessible to a much larger population, particularly rural and urban populations, whereby they would just need one of these SkillBoss Logistics or 2 of these SkillBoss Logistics devices and the e-learning in a classroom to offer a really advanced program. Now to provide you with a little more detail on the SkillBoss Logistics device and how that works, I'd like to turn it over to the President and CEO of Amatrol, Mr. Paul Perkins. Take it away, Paul.
Well, thank you, Neil. And as Neil mentioned, SkillBoss Logistics is the device for assessing the hands-on skills in the CTSCA certification. Everyone who gets certified has to test out on the device to ensure the assessment is consistent. But the SkillBoss also has a second purpose, and that's to serve as a training device to prepare individuals for the assessment. The development of the device has been a really extensive process, and it's spanned about 2 years. I can truly say it's been a team effort. Leadership has come from 5 key organizations, including, including the National Center in California, MSSC in Virginia, Mahita in Illinois, MHI in North Carolina, and Amatrol in Indiana. And the group not only created the vision for the device, but also played a key role in engaging industry experts in the development. We ultimately assembled a who's who of the supply chain industry with iconic names like some of those that you see here. These companies provided expert advisors, engineers, technicians to help us shape the design of SkillBoss, and they spent countless hours reviewing and testing the prototypes to validate the skills. The device that resulted from the effort is the device that you see in the lower left-hand corner of the screen, which is a working tabletop-sized sortation system. And even though it's compact, SkillBoss uses the same technologies and techniques used in larger scale sortation systems like the system you see on the right side of the slide. On SkillBoss, packages are inducted, scanned, routed to multiple conveyors, and then sorted into 3 destination chutes, or if there's a bad scan, sent to a rework station. And the skills are not only applicable to sortation systems, we also made a special effort to include a wide range of technologies so the skills learned and assessed apply to other types of supply chain automation. To learn the skills, we've developed 3 online courses which are aligned with the 3 certifications. And Neil mentioned that each of the courses is about 150 to 200 hours. That involves the time for both the hands-on and the e-learning work. And you can see some examples of screens from the online courses. And they're truly multimedia with animations, 3D graphics, voice and text, and highly interactive, not just page turners. The courses have also been designed to specifically focus on the technology of supply chain automation. And this means the students can go through the courses a lot faster than if they were taking traditional maintenance courses being taught in colleges right now, which might have similar content, but cover more than what is needed for the supply chain industry. This feature makes the courses ideal for workforce development programs or in-plant training, where training time needs to be as short as possible. The courses also feature simulators, so students can practice the hands-on skills online in addition to using SkillBoss in the lab. And this slide shows some examples of some of the simulators which cover fundamentals such as electricity, motor control, pneumatics, and PLCs, and beyond. We call the simulators virtual trainers because the individuals that use them can perform the same skills that they perform on actual training equipment. And what makes the software so special is that it's been designed to have the same behaviors that the students would see if they were working on the actual training equipment. Students can actually make mistakes and they can see the consequences of that. The 100 skills that Neil mentioned that SkillBoss can teach and assess are spread out across 3 courses. And it uses the elements of SkillBoss, which essentially are 3 major areas. In the lower left-hand corner of the screen, you can see some examples of some of the warehouse control software that runs on a PC-based HMI. Above it is the controller, which is mounted to the workstation that you see on the right. And that includes the PLC, Ethernet network, variable frequency drive. And then finally, the workstation itself has multiple types of conveyors, sensors, actuators, and barcode scanner. In addition to the elements that we use here, SkillBoss also, or you see here, so SkillBoss also has another element which is designed to make it not operate. And this is actually the most important feature of the system because it enables individuals to learn and assess their troubleshooting skills. And to accomplish this objective, we used a computer-based fault insertion system called FaultPro. And FaultPro consists of an electronic circuit board and software that inserts faults into the system and tracks the student's troubleshooting activity. Over 50 real-world faults can be inserted into the system. You can see examples of some of the faults on the left-hand side of the screen. And using a computerized method to insert these faults has a number of benefits. 1, it's safe. It doesn't hurt the student or the equipment. 2, it's automated. Students can learn troubleshooting or test their troubleshooting skills without having the teacher have to be tethered to the machine. So that allows a teacher to be able to move throughout the classroom and work with other students. And lastly, it creates a data record so that students and teachers can review what they've accomplished and see where they need to improve. So now that I've described the overall operation, let's watch a short video and you can see SkillBoss in action. The SkillBoss workstation is designed to be accessed from all four sides, so multiple students can work on it at the same time. We've also designed it for safety with features like guards with safety switches placed over critical moving components. To start the process, the packages are placed on an induction roller conveyor. These packages are then fed with gap spacing to the induction belt conveyor to be scanned by a barcode reader. The first package receives a good scan, so the vertical sorter on the end remains horizontal and passes it to the distribution conveyor on the back side. This next package, though, got a bad scan, so the vertical sorter routes it to the recirculation conveyor on the top level. The package stops at a rework station where the person can fix the problem, which in this case is to flip the package over to show the barcode. It is then released to get scanned again. The final stage of the process is to sort the packages into their destinations. This occurs on the distribution conveyor using 3 electropneumatic diverters, which sort packages into 3 discharge chutes. Each diverter uses a different method common to sortation systems. To monitor and control the process, learners use a warehouse control software that runs on a touchscreen PC. The software features graphical screens to operate the system and has many other functions which are accessed from a main menu. Examples are system management, where the system is configured, and many order handling functions such as order picking, order tracking, order entry, and order analysis. There are also alarm screens and even a 3D monitoring and operation screen. And finally, students learn troubleshooting using Amatrol's Fault Pro software, which is accessed from the same PC that runs the HMI software. In summary, SkillBoss has been carefully designed to provide a very realistic experience for learning a wide variety of skills in operation, maintenance, and troubleshooting of supply chain automation. As you might expect, instructors have much to learn to teach and certify individuals in CT/SCA certifications and SkillBoss. To make sure it's a success, we've developed a master instructor training course, and the first one is being held this fall at Amatrol. And in the courses, instructors will learn how to implement the certification, use the online training courses, and become thoroughly familiar with the hands-on skills. So that's what I have to share about SkillBoss Logistics. If you have any questions about SkillBoss, the CT/SCA certification, or the National Center, please don't hesitate to reach out to any of us at these email addresses. And now I'd like to turn it back to Steve Harrington for summary remarks. Steve?
Thank you, Paul. The National Center for Supply Chain Automation is very excited about how our research has evolved from just a visionary idea into a complete certification system with ISO accreditation, online preparation courses, and standardized hands-on assessments. It couldn't have happened without the combined effort of our industry and development partners. Industry partners have told the National Center that CT/SCA ISO accreditation and a standardized hands-on assessment, which in this case is the SkillBoss Logistics device, is a very attractive program to them because it removes the legal liability associated with self-testing and skill assessment bias. Hands-on skill assessments have always been a challenge with any type of technician skills verification system. Amatrol was able to solve this challenge in spades, and SCA is thrilled with the outcome. At the core of our mission, NSF requires centers to seek industry input and develop resources to meet industry's workforce needs. This collaborative outcome is perfectly aligned with our mission. One noteworthy point, and this is to Jack Laser's question, although CT/SCA was developed to certify technician skills in support of the logistics industry, from a foundational skills perspective, it addresses employer needs for entry-level techs in today's manufacturing operations. There's very much an application in manufacturing and advanced manufacturing programs. With this in mind, SCA is now a partner in an NSF grant application with an advanced manufacturing mega center that includes 5 academic institution partners. We hope this center receives funding. At the conclusion of today's webinar, you will receive a follow-up email from the National Center containing links to both the survey and our e-textbook. NSF requires that we gather feedback from participants in our activities. This sort of feedback helps direct our future work and allows us to maintain our funding. If you have an interest in learning more about center resources, NSF funding opportunities, or the NSF Mentor Connect program, question 4 of the survey provides a field for you to enter your contact information for future center follow-up by us. For these reasons, I kindly ask that you take 2 minutes to complete the survey. It should be in your inbox now. Thank you very much. With that said, I'd like to turn the meeting over for Q&A to Chris. Thank you, Chris.
Hey, thank you so much to our panelists. This has been fantastic, and we're just so glad to hear about the supply chain automation and the future that it has. But we'll start with some questions. So we have got quite a few questions here. And one, thank you, Steve, you just did answer, and we appreciate that. We might want to go into more detail on that one because that one was asked by many people. And basically, I'll repeat that question again, is would the SkillBoss Logistics device be appropriate for any existing programs such as mechatronics, engineering, or industrial maintenance? Paul, would you like to answer that, to go over briefly?
Sure, Travis. That's a great question. And the answer is, SkillBoss is applicable to really doing hands-on training in almost any type of automation program. And the reason why is because the components that are in SkillBoss that are being used in logistics automation are the same types of components that are being used in manufacturing automation. And for that matter, manufacturing has a tremendous amount of material handling anyway, which is primarily what is being done in the logistics area. So students are learning about PLCs and sensors and pneumatics and mechanical drives and networking, all the same elements. So it'd be a great device to use in just a traditional manufacturing-oriented mechatronics program, but certainly would add the focus, an additional focus for the supply chain automation industry as well.
Thank you, Paul. We've also got quite a few questions. Neil, I'm going to take this one to you. They want to know if there are more plans for MSSC to add other certifications in manufacturing automation.
Thanks, Chris. There are a number of certifying bodies already in the country that have manufacturing specific automation programs. In many cases, they're quite a bit more advanced. The CTSCA does apply to manufacturing as well, particularly on the logistics side of a plant, where many of the same technologies, the automated systems are in place that would be in a distribution center. So CTSCA is another, really, it does apply to manufacturing as well. We already have our 2 certified production technician certifications. At this point, we do not have any plans to add another manufacturing certification. We'll have 7 now total. If there is interest, of course, and we feel there's a market need for another manufacturing certification, that's something we can look at. But right now we do not. Thanks so much, Chris.
Sure. So another question we got is, what are the ways in which schools and industry can implement this certification program? I'm going to direct this one to Steve.
Thank you, Chris. There's plenty of opportunities to integrate this into both existing AA degree programs, standalone certificate programs, adult education, an apprenticeship model sort of thing. With regard to the center and the center's work, I mentioned the 4 different pilots that are going on, and part of the focus of those pilots is for the academics involved in the integration of this SkillBoss Logistics device and the certification program into their individual school programs, AA degree programs, will produce a result. There will be reporting out on the varying ways in which this can be integrated. And so, that's an exciting aspect. And again, it's a contract training, corporate training, that sort of thing as well, a dedicated certification program. And so lots of other options, and would be happy to speak further about that at a future juncture.
Sure. We got another great question here. I'm going to take this one to Neil. How do you envision high schools and youth connecting with this certification, or do you see this primarily as post-secondary?
Well, we've looked at this in quite a bit of depth. I think we're pretty comfortable, both Amatrol and MSSC, with equipment maintenance, which is really the first certification, being able to be offered in high school. These are, again, quite demanding, and they're 150 to 200 hours. So I think trying to tackle anything beyond one of these certifications would be a lot. And equipment maintenance, we feel, would fall under that realm, particularly junior, senior year. We also feel pretty strongly that that could be used for work-based learning. It would be a fantastic internship program. If a high school student were to graduate from high school with their degree and the EM certification, just, our estimates show 18 to 20, maybe even more for, just a starting position, a starting wage for the EM. So you can imagine being a high school student and graduating from high school making $18 to $20 an hour. I mean, gosh, that's a fantastic income. And then they can, of course, use that to help pay for additional schooling at an AS degree level with, in supply chain logistics, and of course, go on to earn their other 2 certifications. This would be great for a dual enrollment or dual credit program, or a great way to create a 2+2 program for high school students. So we also think this could be an excellent pre-apprenticeship for high school students, leading to maybe a larger apprenticeship model and so forth. So no question, the EM would be an excellent opportunity for high school students and a great entry into the career path that we're talking about. Thanks.
Thank you, Neil. Paul, this one's going to be directed towards you. We've got a couple people asking, is this appropriate to teach Industry 4.0 smart manufacturing fundamentals such as, PLC, HMI, and the talking in between them?
Yes, absolutely, Chris. One of the things that we incorporated into SkillBoss was an Ethernet network system with managed switch, and so the VFD, the HMI, the PLC, barcode reader are all communicating over Ethernet, and so there's actually some pretty sophisticated skills that can be done. Now, with that said, we actually have designed SkillBoss's system so that it can operate at different levels of complexity. So, for example, with a VFD, a variable frequency drive, you can command it through Ethernet commands, but you can also command it with discrete I/O commands from the PLC, which is a lot simpler. And so we actually wired in discrete inputs and outputs, as well as connected it through the Ethernet so that students can stair-step their learning. And so there's a lot of Industry 4.0 commands that or skills that actually can be taught as part of this. And I might also mention that these 3 certifications actually are part of ultimately a group of 5 certifications that MSSC has laid out, and there are 2 advanced certifications that would fall heavily into this Industry 4.0 area, as well as the 3rd certification certainly being a key gateway into that. So I think it's a great question, and definitely this is a very, very good fit for people that are wanting to teach Industry 4.0.
Great, thank you, Paul. Neil, I've got another question for you. What is the process to become a certified instructor in integrating the certification program into a post-secondary program?
So good question. So Amatrol, as Paul mentioned, will be offering the instructor training, and for the CTSCA program, that's a 5-day instructor training, and very comprehensive. And instructors will have about 3 months of access to the e-learning if they have enough time prior to an instructor training at Amatrol, just outside of Louisville, Kentucky. And just to hopefully go through the e-learning, you're talking about each one of these being 150 to 200 hours. So it's a lot, but we hope that they will have access to all 3 of the e-learning courses for EM, ER, and NR, and will be well versed in the e-learning prior to getting to Amatrol to go through the hands-on on the SkillBoss Logistics device. But this is a very comprehensive, thorough instructor training. We are looking hopefully to have master training centers at some point where they'd be more regional, so that not everyone would have to travel to the Amatrol location. But this will be Amatrol's instructor training program. We have a lot of confidence in their ability to administer quality and maintain that level of quality throughout the country as we expand these. So, but yeah, that's what I've got for instructor training. But all the pieces are in place for an excellent instructor training program.
Neil, I've got another question to kind of follow up on that and to dig a little deeper. I've got a couple people asking how you feel about the CLA and CLT would that be a prerequisite, or would you implement SkillBoss into those programs as well?
We have no plans right now to integrate the SkillBoss Logistics machine into CLA CLT. We are going through a significant upgrade to CLA CLT. Keep in mind that CLA CLT is to prepare people to be material handling or frontline workers in a warehouse/distribution center. These are folks that are at a much that are nowhere near at the same level, technical level, especially to be an automated technician. They're not really competitive. If CLA CLT is really pre-competitive to the SCA certifications, we do see this. We do see the CLA particularly, and you could add in the CLT as being an excellent precursor, an excellent preparatory certification, or even just the CLA, an excellent certificate for people new to the whole world of supply chain logistics, people that don't know about the whole cycle, if you will, from the extraction of a raw good all the way to the point where you have a finished product into the hands of the customer. And then, of course, how is that product disposed? So the CLA really provides an individual, like our other certifications that are more entry level, with this whole industry and this whole career pathway, and a good understanding of what their mission or path should be that would lead to something like the SCA.
Thank you. We're going to do one more question and then we'll wrap up with Travis Kuhn. The last question we'll get to today is, should schools complement SkillBoss Logistics with other training devices? And I'm going to send this over to Paul Perkins.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. The answer is that it's totally at the discretion of the school, but that is, as people look at how to lay out a lab and run students through the various activities, SkillBoss can accommodate 2 to 3 students at the same time. And then the course materials have virtual simulations, so additional students can be doing hands-on activities with that. But the system also is complemented nicely by other types of training devices. So if a school already has automation training devices such as PLC trainers, pneumatics, mechanical trainers, those absolutely can be used in the same lab, and some of the hands-on skills that are being done in SkillBoss can be done on those other devices. So the option is really to either build on top of a lab that you have, or possibly to have have more than one SkillBoss device if you're working with a larger group of students. So it's really a decision that certainly the school has the option to go either way depending on what meets their circumstances best. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to turn it over to Travis Kuhn, our president at Technical Training Aids, to wrap us up.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate your help and work today. I'd also like to thank all of our attendees and presenters today. It's been greatly insightful. I hope that everybody on the webinar with us today has learned something new and found ways to incorporate this into your programs if that's applicable. We appreciate your time. We hope that you all have a great day. Please know that there will be a follow-up email coming out to you after this with a recording of this session. Feel free to share that to all of your friends and colleagues. And certainly if you have any questions, reach out to us here at Technical Training Aids. All of your local sales representatives will be happy to come by and talk to you in deeper discussions about this program and how we can help you out. We thank everybody, and again, have a blessed day.